Hello and welcome back to the prayer course. And we are going over our content. So I'm about to tell you everything that you need to know about me and who I am and how I got started here. Which means I'm going over the process of how I first started with my testimony, the funny stories, how I came back to Jesus, how I started from Facebook accounts, scriptures. I've mentioned this before if you've been watching the ministry videos. How I started listening to the word, spending time following God in reference in the Bible, and as we go. So, who am I? Well, I'm Taj Cameron. I'm a girl, just like a lot of y'all people. Some of you guys, whoever it is that found this channel, some of you are females. I feel kind of that I'm going to end up drawing a lot of females, but at the end of the day, I'm a person that ever since I was born, I've been in a fight for my life. It's that classic line from that movie that Oprah was in, Color Purple, where she made the statement, all my life I had to fight. But those of us, and you know who you is, let's stop playing. You know exactly who you are, that literally had to fight from the time you were born. But me, most people don't understand the root of my story. Because you see, my mother was in an abusive relationship with a man that was secretly beating her behind closed doors. And nearly died when she was 7 months pregnant with me from a brain aneurysm. I nearly died. But the devil tried to take me out. But it didn't work. Because the Lord let it be that I did not die. But sadly, she did. The Lord let her die. I got to a point where I lost 2 minutes of oxygen. They were allowed to do a C-section on me. They thought I was dead, but I survived. My mother only survived 4 days after that point. She never got a chance to see me because she never woke up. Her great aunt was so moved by the loss that she went to the courts, and even through family strife, she took custody to raise me as her own. The devil kept coming after me. I was bullied through school, pushed, accused, abused, knocked down. If I sat here and just told you the stories of my childhood, I can literally name to you every single one of my bullies that I had. I can name to you the grade. I can name to you what they did. I can name it to you. I have not had it easy. It was always somebody just hated me. And sometimes we be sitting there and I know you know it. I know you can agree with me. I know you've said it. I know. Now what did I do? What did I do? I didn't do nothing to nobody. If anything, I was that person. Kind of having that thought of Rose Nyland from Golden Girls. She was always the nicest person, and you remember that episode. Anybody that has ever watched that show remembers the episode where there was that one guy that worked at her job, I believe, that never gave her the time of day. He didn't like her. He hated her guts. How are you so happy all the time? That was me as a kid. That was me. Until my entire world got crashed and destroyed when the aunt that raised me, that I never knew was my aunt, died. Suddenly. We could see something was coming. There was evidence, but you're 17 and ain't nobody telling you nothing. When the pieces come together and you see what happens, it's something you never forget. And that was when my life began to sink. She had passed, but I wanted to die. The devil tried to get me wanting to commit suicide at least 7 times. I remember that time frame. I remember feeling trapped. I remember feeling isolated. It's one thing to end up in a season of isolation. It's another thing to end up in a season of isolation where you feel like you can't survive. This was probably the worst level of warfare I'd ever gone through. For those of y'all that have been listening to my words, good for you. But you're about to gain some deep revelation. Pills, fire, mental depression. The devil wanted me badly never to see the promise of my life, to spiral down. I found out I was adopted within a year of that. I could not claim my name. The life that I had been living was a whole lie because none of the documents were in order. There was another name on my birth certificate, and I spiritually felt raped of my identity. I did not feel secure and did not understand who I was. Now, I'm going to pause and I'm going to give you the first lesson on spiritual warfare. You see how I wrote that word rape there? You got to be careful. Use your words wisely because an enemy can use that in the courts of heaven to bring forth an attack physically to cause an enemy because you spoke it out of your mouth. The word rape. If you've never been raped before in reality, if you speak it, it could literally. So by me writing it, I felt like I was. Some of you have to be careful about the wording in which you use. I use that wording on purpose because that is the way that I felt at the time. Blessed be to Jesus, that will never happen. Because I am covered and protected. But in prayer, if you see something like that, pray over yourself. Pray over even in speaking it and make sure you understand the context in which you are using. Because the enemy might try you because he feels he has legal right by the fact that you use a certain form of phrase to come against you. That was just a side note. With that being said, I ended up in the wrong relationship with a man that wasn't even sure whether he wanted to be me or to be a man at all. He didn't know whether he wanted to be with me or be a man. So many insecurities being with a woman was challenged. I was going to clubs with him. I was drinking. Not out of control. I've never been out of control drinker. But I was in my own little spiral at the time. I did not understand. He was going through certain changes in his life, and so was I. And I was trying to hold on to him with everything that was in me. Because he was the only connection that after my mother died that I had that connected me to some solidarity of security. But he was so lost at the time. I had no clue, and I was lost so badly at that moment. Anyone asked me what I thought or what my opinion was, I didn't even have one. I could not even explain to a person what it was that I wanted out of my life, who I was, what I desired. I lost me. My security was in things and in people. I had no thoughts that were my own because I didn't trust myself. Pause. If anybody out there that does not trust yourself, understand that it is okay to get to that place, but you must find a way to work through those feelings and emotions in order for you to be able to see, feel, and experience what's necessary. I didn't know how to recognize it. I didn't see it. I was blind until I met him. When I found Jesus. He had been coming after me my whole life. My aunt used to pray with me as a child. She taught me the Lord's Prayer from 5 to 6. And she would pray at times, but I rarely saw it. I remember going to church a handful of times. And when I say a handful of times, I literally can name. I remember going to church when my dad had his baptism. I remember going to church. It was some type of event. It was my dad's church and I fell asleep. I literally remember like a handful of times. I remember even as a teenager, I went one time when we were in North Carolina. We went to my niece's church. It was right after Luther Vandross had died. I remember one time when I was young, my dad's baptism, Easter Sunday. That's what that one was. 2005-06. My great uncle was in town, meeting a friend there in my early 30s. God was calling me, but I wasn't ready to obey. I would pick up my Bible here and there, try to read, but I couldn't get into it. I remember times that I remember being the person that I had a couple dollars, and I literally remember going online and I ordered a physical Bible. And I remember taking that physical Bible, putting it in a crate, and leaving it there. I read that Bible all the way up through Genesis. Started Exodus. I think I had gotten to one of the major fights in the midst of Exodus. I was enthralled in the fight, but for some reason I didn't pick that book up again. So, my parents were divided in their Christianity. Mother had one set of beliefs. My father had another set of beliefs. My mom didn't want to go to church. My dad tried to get us to go to church. I was a mama's girl, and guess what? I ain't go to church. But what brought me to Christ, I remember God had stripped me from everything. No job, no money, no friends. I was doing nothing. I remember that season well. It was during the time frame where lost my home, was jumping from house to house. At this particular point, I was staying at my godmother's. I had no job, wasn't going to school no more. God had dried up everything. And I was like, I wasn't making any money. Nothing was coming through for me. Nothing. And I was like, God, what are we doing here? Nothing. Every day. Slept, messed around on social media. I reached a point. Around 5 times the devil came and tried to take me out. I remember those times. I remember visions of seeing things burning. I remember wanting to get out of the house, walk out of the house. I felt so trapped. Any of y'all that went through isolation, raise your hands. I remember being in a place where I wanted to take a bunch of pills. People don't know me. People don't know. I prayed for help. And I felt the weight. I called out to God and I prayed for help. I felt that weight come off of me. I got up one day and I said, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I knew I had to stop going in the direction that I was going. Stop chasing after things that everyone else wanted me to have. What my father, my godmother, what everybody was telling me, aunts, uncles, and you need to. I needed to trust God is what I needed to do. I figured out who I was and could only do that with Him. I was done doing it my way. It was time to do it the way that was His way. I gave it to Him, and that's when He started to do it for me. When I gave my life to God, my life changed. I began to read the Word. Rough. I didn't know what I was doing. I just did it. And at the time, I started to follow people online that were about business. And at the time, I meditated. I didn't know any better. And when I say I meditated, I literally was in meditation. But I now know that meditation is not the correct way to get to God. But I was still learning at the time about meditation and the form of meditation that comes with meditation with God and meditation with that yoga, going into the spirit realm, sitting and allowing yourself to be open to the spirits and all that kind of stuff, how that was wrong. And I needed to find out how to do so with God. Ask God for what I needed. Seek God in a series of things, knocking. I remember the day I had been messing around with Think and Grow Rich because I was dealing with a lot of business people at the time, and I ended up coming across Think and Grow Rich. It was the audio of the half-hour thing or whatever in relation to Think and Grow Rich, which made me sit down. And I sat down and I wrote on a card. And this is important. I wrote on a card what I wanted. And number 1 was to be happy. something simple. What I thought would be happiness, defined by me. I wrote a list of how I felt life was supposed to be for me. Then I started to work on me. He started to lead me to the people and the places and what to do that activated what would come to cause me to write and release it all. The pain, all the suffering, all the things I had carrying it for years. All the time I was seeing a therapist, and every time I wrote out a bunch of things, I would take them back to her and she would work them out and we would walk through them and walk them out together. When her job was done, she was gone. I would start going to church and separating myself from the people and going to spend time with God, letting Him talk to me. I remember when I found my church, it was through the people that the Lord had led me through. I always give thanks to Dr. Jolynn Whitaker when I found her. The coach that I listened to, she suggested her. I started following her. They were all on the same platform. Her, the apostle you hear me talk about, my coach, all of them were all on the app that used to be Periscope. I never thought I'd see the day that an app that was so relevant and recent would just fall away. And Periscope did, but that's where I found them all at when I first started. And I was following their broadcasts. Pain, suffering, all of these things. I wrote out bunches of things. I would take I started going to church, separating myself from people, and going to spend time with God, letting Him talk to me. Some of you, and some will tell you, "Oh, God doesn't speak to you." Yes, He does. Yes, He does. Some people will sit there and say, "Oh, if you're talking and you hear a voice talking back to you, if you are in the space with the Lord, and I guarantee you, if you get close to God enough, God will rebuke you. God will conversate with you. God will give you signs and wonders. God will show you through other people. Sometimes you have to come to the realization what God is doing. It may not, a lot of people say, "Oh, you can't hear God as an audible voice." Yes, you can. You ever hear people say that still small voice? You have to realize what God will do is He will take pieces, things. That's why you also have to be careful of who you're listening to. That He will take pieces, things, voices, voice dictations, and so on and so forth, and create a tapestry of vocal, what do you call it? Reminiscence. Like, you may hear this person say something or that person say something. But what you will hear when the Lord speaks is you will hear a man's voice. And He will speak to you. God has a way of talking in whichever way He speaks to you. He even uses the language in which you are able to understand. But yes, He speaks to you. The world will always make those things come off to you as if, "Oh, you must be crazy if God's speaking to you. You must be crazy if you're hearing an audible voice. You must be crazy. You must be, you must be, you must be." I remember years ago they tried to diagnose me as bipolar because of this factor. some of you are just spiritually in tune. 9 times out of 10 people that are spiritually gifted and Christian will end up being diagnosed as such things because you are spiritually gifted and empathetic. I know empath is a word that the New Age people use. But you have to understand, God will lead you. Holy Spirit, I've experienced, the spirits I've gone through, the ideas, perspectives, all of these things, as I've walked through these experiences and give everything through this perspectives of my life to God, and I grew my career dreams with Him. And not long after that, I wrote, and that is when I figured out ministry. I started to figure out my ministry, and I wanted what I wanted out of me. He took the list I wrote about what I wanted, and he took me through a process. He started to have me build on that. He had prophets and prophetesses and apostles and people. I literally tell you right now, the first person I listened to, evangelist. Well, actually, I was the evangelist. The first person I listened to was a teacher, which is my coach, prophetess, an apostle, and I even have a pastoral prophet. A lot of them all operate in the offices of prophet, but yeah. Helping me understand what I was called to do, and I ran for everything. I came in order, and every gift, every talent, every desire God gave me a plan for. Streams of living water He gave me. Businesses He gave me. Career He gave me. Everything I asked for. Books, scripts, missions, business plans, non-profits ideas, corporations. Everything on the list He gave me. And last, He gave me something I wasn't concentrating on. He gave me knowledge of the next relationship that I will be in. Filling me with kingdom purpose for what God wants me to birth out in the coming years. I know this is all because He gave me my life, and I gave my life back to Him as according to the word. That we have to give our life, be willing to lose our life, to gain our life. Even though my life has not become perfect, God's still working. I can see Him in myself and the people He has put around me. The thoughts, the ideas, the joys, the events, the sorrows. He was in all of it. And in the end, there is no end. It is a beginning. I'm only starting. I've created businesses around how I came out of this situation. And I use every talent, every skill, everything I went through to help people, lead people out of the place where they want to die and into the purpose of how they can fly. So come to Jesus and see how He will truly change your life. The funny story. Jesus came and got me. When I tell you what you see is what you get, this is the way he came after me. Yes, you heard me that right. This is a Facebook post. I was on Facebook one day, and it technically didn't start here. I remember the day I was sitting outside, waiting on the bus, and there was this older white guy. I was sitting there waiting on the bus. I walked around the corner. I don't remember where I was, and I was waiting to go back home to the place that I was staying at the time. And this white guy comes up, and he's an older gentleman. And he said, "Oh, did you come out to church?" I was like, no. And it was weird. He's like, "If God came to you," or something like that. And he said, "Would you answer?" And I said, like, I remember later saying to myself, thinking about that, I actually had a thought about that. And I was like, yeah. And then this post popped up on my phone. I had never seen these posts before, and I'm sure they've been circulating around the internet and on Facebook all these years and all this time. Yes. I said yes. The next 3 times these posts popped up on my Facebook page, I said yes. Other things started happening. These are the actual images that will pop up on my phone. This is what I saw, and this is when I just started verbally speaking to the Lord. It's how you know God listening to you. Verbally said out my mouth. God is calling you. I was like, okay. God's been showing me a little something else. Similar type of message. Popped up on my social media. We'll talk about that in one of our other words. But, New International Version. But God hath chosen the foolish things in the world to confound the wise. What would you do? What would you do? Making him a part of your everyday life. I had a hard time reading the Bible. Reading the Word, it was an issue for me. Picking up the actual book, and even I will admit unto this day, this is sometimes I do not sit and just read out of the Word. A lot of the Word that you hear me getting, it's because I listen to the Word. I'm either listening to the Word or listening to people speaking the Word. But I'm listening. So I started paying attention to the pages, the scriptures, and the quotes. I would go on social media and I would start to mark down in my Bible the specific lines and specific quotes out of the Bible that were in these posts that the Lord was leading me to at the time. Then I spent a whole afternoon going through the Bible, highlighting these quotes and reading through the highlighted quotes that I had marked up in the book. Next, the best thing that helped me was when I found the Bible on YouTube. I know we all have seen it. If this may be an issue for you, if you have trouble sitting and reading the Bible, and the enemy always tries you. If he sees that you're reading the Word, he's going to come after you. You sit down, you try to read the Word, in 5 minutes you start falling asleep. You can have insomnia. You sit down and try to read that Word, you'll be asleep in 5 minutes. Tiffany Montgomery gets on a lot of people for this. Because it's a spiritual tenacity that comes with fasting that helps you. This helped me a lot during the 40-day fast because I could listen to it for hours or 2 hours while following along with the Word. And to this day, when I'm busy and I want to focus, I put the Bible in my ears in the background and I keep working. Welcome to the end of this segment of my prayer course. I hope this blessed you. I hope I let you know a little bit more about me, because I believe a lot of the stuff that I talked about in this I never really talked about on this channel. So I pray this really blessed you. I love to hear from you. I want to know more so, are you enjoying this content? Has it blessed you? Has it connected with you? Has my story connected with you? I pray that it has. I thank you. Until next time, much love, faith, peace, and blessings to you.